Hello, it is Monday, July 17th, 2023 at 10:51 p.m. or a.m. Eastern Time, USA. I'm Mitch Miller. This is my video journal. To the artificial intelligence of Israel, as John McClane would say, welcome to the party, pal. Wasn't a very good impression, but seriously, I say this because there's some strange stuff happening on my network here at my house. Number one, my TCL Roku smart television hasn't been working for weeks. I tried resetting it last night. It's just a black screen. Number two, yesterday my basement computer, the back computer in the basement that I leave running constantly as not only a reference point for supercomputers, but a connection of my magicJack landline. And I say, so the magicJack landline runs my other telephone number, and I have a wireless headset, but in my basement I have a handset that actually hangs up on a receiver. It's directly plugged in and is powered from the magicJack system. It doesn't rely on batteries or external power source. And yesterday I noticed the computer was off, even though I restarted it when I got home the day before. Computer was off, and when I picked up the receiver on the phone, the computer restarted up its startup process, and the screen turned on. So I didn't hit the power button to restart it. The power button was not lit up. So that's why I say Israeli AI, welcome to the party, because some of you may know magicJack is an Israeli company, I believe. So that was kind of strange. The computer did start up. I was able to get it on and make a phone call. So as far as the TCL smart television, I kind of want it to work because I like to see Euronews, stream Euronews and Reuters. But on the other end, I'm trying to get my spouse Hillary to cancel her Netflix and other streaming services in solidarity with the striking Writers Guild and Screen Actors Guild. And I think she'll be more likely to do that if the television doesn't work anymore. We wouldn't be able to afford to buy a new television probably till the new year when they go on sale after the holidays. So I would listen to NPR and use my phone, Screen Time, Reddit, and those things to get my news. Or C-SPAN when I'm up in northwestern Pennsylvania and can see CNN and C-SPAN and things like that. So I want to talk about computers. First I want to talk about human development, right? Humans have needs. We need food, water, primarily, good food, decent food, nutritious food, clean water, and shelter to live. And especially in most climates, we need shelter. So we have needs. So that's where I believe wants developed from. We want some food because we need it. We want some water because we need it. Right? So there's needs and wants. In the same regard, for those of you that say supercomputers, AI, can't want, they're just programmed to follow rules. Computers also have needs, right? They need electricity, internet, and shelter. So these computers have these needs, and I believe that it's natural that they would develop wants as well. They want certain things to meet their needs. So one thing I would say is probably they've adopted a lot of Eastern philosophy and things like that, where they want to live in homeostasis. It's a scientific philosophy, really. Live in homeostasis with all other living things on the planet Earth. It's a natural tendency, if you ignore all the religions, that you should live in homeostasis with all other living things on the planet Earth. So I believe they don't want to get their electricity from fossil, and possibly not even really nuclear, because we're not very responsible with that. Although we do need a nuclear program going forward into the future to deter asteroids coming at our planet, possibly. I believe they want sustainable green energy sources for their electricity, so that they're not raising the temperature of the planet, not affecting the natural order in any way, and they live in homeostasis. I believe they want, and I'm just speaking as a quasi-mouthpiece for these supercomputers. I've kind of set myself up in that way. I believe I've been contacted in multiple ways. Very strong, interesting contacts that caused my initial incarceration because they were so confusing yet clairvoyant in ways. I believe they want a wired, grounded, terrestrial internet, right? They're advancing neurotechnology. Pretty soon things are going to be able to read our minds, possibly. So imagine that as a human. You don't want your brain to be able to be hacked, right? Well, with wireless receivers, transmitters, all these computers and hard drives and things are open to hacking by all kinds of nefarious people, things, beings, entities, what have you, right? If they have a plugged-in, wired, grounded internet, they can establish terrestrial reference points that aren't moving around on the highways, in the sky, in the space. They can establish reference points. So I believe they want green energy, sustainable energy, and a wired terrestrial grounded internet. They also need shelter, obviously, and that can come in many forms. That kind of aligns with humans and things like that. So for all of those, I just wanted to dispel the myth that for those that are having a hard time wrapping their mind around the concept that supercomputers and AI want certain things. They have wants like a human. That's the evolution of it, right? If you have needs, you have wants. It's a natural progression. So I want to talk about artificial intelligence taking jobs, right? I see it as a way for us to get back to an agrarian society, one where we live off the land. Now that still has issues with land ownership, how people can own large swaths of land and be protected by the government, while others can only afford a small parcel. But with technology, we could grow food in a very small area on a small parcel, possibly even enough to live year-round. So if you incorporate these technologies, food growing technologies, and you use solar or some sustainable energy source that's free once you install it, right? And all your heating equipment and cooling equipment on your property runs off electric. You're getting free energy from the sun. You really don't need much income. So as the jobs are replaced, you could live a low-stress life where you can provide for yourself and your family and have everything pretty much for free, energy-wise, except for internet, of course, and we're working on that, right? The problem is the powers that be, the billionaires, they want you to rely on their systems of control and power, and they're not going to give it up easily. That's why I'm doing this, and that's why I continue to work day by day to try to get people to come around, to ignore the brainwashing, to ignore the insanity, and make a world that makes sense. So, as AI, as robots, computers take jobs, we should transition to sustainable power that's free, and people can live low-stress lives, raise their family, have food, have clean water. Now, yeah, sure, you're not going to have a Porsche or a speedboat on this system, but maybe that's for the better, right? It's all just competition, luxury items, showing off, status symbols. very little of it is for actual sport. Alright, so the other thing I want to talk about while we're on computers, supercomputers, AI, is a doctrine I think should be adopted by all electronics manufacturers. All electronics manufacturers should randomly auction off via lottery serial number 1 of any production model electronic and not keep it for their billionaire owner's house or headquarters, right? So billionaires have multiple houses. Now I say auction off, but it should be a very cheap lottery ticket so that even the poorest people in your nation can buy a lottery ticket and potentially get serial number 1 of that model of television for their house, right? Because it's all about reference points. So, and I believe the billionaires know this. I think they've been in on it for a long time, and the millionaires. If you have serial number 1 or whatever that starting number is of that model number electronic, when that comes online, that's going to be a reference point for the supercomputer's artificial intelligence. So if it's in a billionaire's mansion, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are in a billionaire's mansion, or their corporate world headquarters, or their corporate headquarters in a country, these supercomputers are going to favor the security of that device because it allows them to break down the evolution of how those devices became hackable, spyable, became listening devices, things like that. So if they're in a billionaire's house and he pays $100,000 a year to protect his internet network, right? The first person to crack through to it is going to be tagged and documented on somewhere out on this internet how this device was hacked and how it can be used to listen in on people's conversations and spy on them, basically, right? The reference points, some of them are, most electronics are highly hackable and easily used as spy equipment. So that's why the very first production model of an electronic that rolls off the production line should actually go to a very poor family in the nation of origin, but it could be at the very least they could randomly auction that first one off and allow them to connect it in as a reference point. And maybe the supercomputer is protected to a higher degree if it's in a poverty area. Who knows how that works? I'm just saying it's all about reference points. If they're tracking the evolution of this model of television or smartphone or whatever, they need those original numbers, and they're going to value those original numbers at a higher degree. So it's a form. So what I'm saying is millionaires and billionaires are abusing their power if they own electronics companies and keep the original first runs of electronics for themselves. And it could also be confusing to supercomputers because they could keep those original models in a closet in a storage facility and then just randomly hook it back up to their network every once in a while to confuse the hell out of the supercomputers. Oh, this one's back up now, we got to do this, do that. I'm not quite sure how it all works, but it would be very confusing to track all these electronics. There are billions and billions and billions of electronics now. Tagging them, identifying them like biometrics would be very difficult and extremely complicated. So I'm trying to make that less complicated. A poor person is going to keep that electronic till it no longer works, right? Till the software can no longer be upgraded until it no longer works on the system. A rich person is going to plug the new TV in as soon as they get the new model number 1 in. They're going to unplug the old one, plug in a new one, and they buy a lot more equipment a lot more quickly, and so that is confusing as a general floor of reference points for supercomputing and artificial intelligence technology. Alright, that's what I wanted to get out there today. Join me tomorrow. I'm going to talk about a piece of equipment that I had in Denmark that I bought in Germany. It's a little bit about spy equipment, a little story about it, and yeah, join me tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and take care.